Welcome to Voices of the Writers. I'm your host, Adam Scull, bringing you a new dimension of poetry readings, songwriters, vignettes, and stories with music and sounds for the Eat, Sleep, Write podcast. Discover new writers. Learn about their huge body of work on Eat, Sleep, Write.
The True Story of the Trail of the Lonesome Pine. A Spirit Hollow production. The Tale of the Lonesome Pine, from the book Devil John Wright, His Life and Times, by Philip Kent Church. Narrated by Philip Kent Church, the great-great-grandson of Devil John Wright. The novel, The Trail of the Lonesome Pine, was first published around 1908. It has the distinction of being one of the first million-copy bestsellers in American history. Not only did this propel the book's author, John Fox Jr., into the national spotlight, but the man upon whom one of the novel's main characters was based as well. This was Devil John Wright, who is depicted as the giant mountaineer Devil Judd Tolliver in the novel. The book would spawn no less than 3 motion pictures. One of these was an early effort at direction by acclaimed movie director, the iconic Cecil B. DeMille. Another, filmed in 1936, being the first outdoor Technicolor film ever made, would include the film debut of a young actor named Henry Fonda. Unfortunately, this film adaptation, directed by Henry Hathaway, bore little resemblance to Fox's novel. Along with these would be a 1912 Broadway production and no less than 2 hit songs, all based upon the book. The Trail of the Lonesome Pine spans a time frame of approximately 10 years between 1884 and 1894. However, it derives from events central to its theme that occurred up to 1908 when it was originally published. The prime example of this would be the dealings between the coal companies, most notably the Consolidated Coal and Coke Company, and the landowners of the region. From 1900 to 1916, Devil John acted as a liaison negotiator between the local citizenry, who had come to trust and respect him, and the coal companies, which compensated him handsomely in the brokering of land and mineral rights during the coal boom at the turn of the 20th century. In 1904, Devil John himself sold vast amounts of his own holdings in Kentucky and settled permanently at Horse Gap on the outskirts of Pound in Wise County, Virginia. It was this event that is the basis for one of the major themes in John Fox Jr.'s novel. This would be the mountaineer character based on Devil John, named Devil Judd Tolliver, making his fortune off of the coal found in his land. It would be the lure of such fortune that originally led the author of The Trail of the Lonesome Pine, John Fox Jr., to settle in Wise County, Virginia around 1885. Such interest would inevitably lead him to local movers and shakers like Devil John Wright, who, at the time, resided just across the state line on Elkhorn Creek in Letcher County, Kentucky. Indeed, Fox's keen knowledge in such dealings is superbly reflected in the protagonist of the novel, Jack Hale. Hale dreamed of a prosperity for himself and the town he helped to create through such dealings of industrialization and modernization in the region. The novel portrays it as a dream that would become, in many ways, tantamount to the serpent being unleashed in the Garden of Eden. The novel presents a historically accurate theme of a boomtown gone bust. This is a theme actually reflected by Fox's hometown of Big Stone Gap, from which Fox derived most of the attributes of the novel's fictional town, known simply as The Gap. While the shared interests of land brokering and bringing civilization to the hills was the impetus for John Fox Jr. and Devil John's relationship, it would bloom into a close, enduring friendship. It would be Devil John's tales and a way of life that is an obvious inspiration for much of the novel's narrative. Likewise, Fox would come to an intimate knowledge of Devil John's contemporaries and family members, whom he used as a basis for the characters populating his famous novel. John Fox Jr. was an author during the American naturalism movement in writing, popularized after the Civil War into the first half of the 20th century. Fox employed the local color genre in his writing, also popular at the time. This method is where authors would employ the use of actual persons, places, and events in a mix as the basis for their fictional characters, landscapes, and themes in their writing. This is precisely what the Trail of the Lonesome Pine represents. The book employs a blending of multiple real people to flesh out a single character, or a mixture of locations to derive a single place, and a set of actual events blended with fancy to drive the story. This has led to some confusion when trying to nail down the exact identities of persons, places, and things Fox relied upon in his writing. Indeed, the silent main character of the novel, the Lonesome Pine's actual existence has been a source of regional dispute for over 100 years. Fortunately, this mystery, along with much of where Fox actually gained his inspiration for most of the book's characters, locations, and themes, can be unraveled by an in-depth knowledge of the personal history and times of Devil John Wright. A good example of this would be the Trail of the Lonesome Pine's characters of Squire Billy Beams and his wife, Ole Hun. This couple is presented as the only neighbors of the book's heroine, June Tolliver, who lives with her father, Devil Judd Tolliver, her stepmother, and little brother Bub Tolliver in her father's cabin. Devil Judd's home is described as being located down the mountain topped by the Lonesome Pine and situated in Lonesome Cove by Lonesome Creek. Just downstream, Squire Billy and Ole Hun run a grist mill off of the creek. June calls Squire Billy Uncle Billy. The meaning is clear. He is either the brother of her biological mother, who has no mention in the book, or he is the older brother of her dad, Devil Judd. When Fox first encountered Devil John Wright, he resided in a cabin on Elkhorn Creek with his wife, Mattie, and any number of Devil John's children, including those to whom Mattie would be considered a stepmother. Devil John's closest neighbors on Elkhorn Creek were his brother, kinky-haired Sam Wright, and his wife, Martha. Here the couple ran a grist mill. The most obvious discrepancy between the fictional Uncle Billy and Old Hun and the real-life kinky-haired Sam and his wife Martha is that the couple in the novel are portrayed as a kindly elderly couple. Kinky-haired Sam and Martha were, in reality, much younger than Devil John. It is more likely than not that Fox blended an actual elderly couple known by him personally, but lost to history, with the people he undoubtedly encountered during his many visits to Devil John's home in Kentucky. It is a classic example of the local color genre being employed in its blending and mixing of characters and story components from real-life counterparts. As stated, it is this blending that has resulted in much speculation and even dissension amongst folks claiming that their respective ancestor or relative just had to be the sole basis for some of the book's characters. Beyond this, matters of civic pride have entered the fray regarding which town is Fox's The Gap based upon. Was there ever a real Lonesome Pine? If so, which mountain did the Lonesome Pine adorn? There is even a question as to which state, Virginia or Kentucky, did any of this really occur. Local figures, writers, and historians have argued these questions for over a century. For instance, The Gap is the town where much of the novel's action plays out. Because of obvious descriptions, including named locations and structures, it has long been supposed that The Gap is actually Fox's hometown of Big Stone Gap, Virginia. Indeed, this identification has resulted in Big Stone Gap putting on a perennial outdoor drama since 1964 of The Trail of the Lonesome Pine during the summer months. It's been adapted as a musical performed by the locals and has been actually designated as the official state outdoor drama for Virginia. However, a detailed look at Fox's Gap reveals details of geography, history, and incidentals that clearly show The Gap is based not just on one, but 4 separate towns in the region. These are unquestionably the towns of Norton, Pound, then called Pound Gap, the county seat of Wise, and finally, Big Stone Gap itself. All of these are located within a 20-mile radius in Wise County, Virginia. Part and parcel with the book's fame are myriad business and civic concerns sporting titles like Trail and Lonesome Pine in their names. A prime example is the hospital where the movie star Elizabeth Taylor once received emergency treatment. This was after a choking incident famously parodied by John Belushi on Saturday Night Live, which the famous actress suffered in Big Stone Gap while dining with her then husband, Virginia State Senator John Warner. Naturally, the hospital is called Lonesome Pine Hospital. Another example would be the Lonesome Pine Scenic Byway. The local Boy Scouts are part of the Lonesome Pine District. The list goes on and on. The Trail of the Lonesome Pine has taken on a huge role in the society of America that exists within the region of Southwest Virginia, Eastern Kentucky, as far north as Beckley, West Virginia, and southward into the Smoky Mountains of eastern Tennessee. The protagonist of the novel is John Jack to his friends Hale. This main character seems to be a composite of no less than 3 individual men,